So, because it was an intro to the system as well as to this battle, I didn't cover everything I wanted to in the introduction. I'm going to go over the victory conditions for this in particular, but also something about the off-map units, which I'm just now deploying on my little homemade map. Beautiful, isn't it? Theoretically, these aren't even visible to the Prussian player because there's a heavy fog. He can't tell. He knows there's troops down there. He doesn't know exactly how they're deployed, which is important because it covers a range running from here across to 4234, about here. So there's significant indications of what's where. The problem here is you could even move a stack into position below here and make it look like you're putting a commitment there when the reality is you're not going to make one there. It's never going to simulate the running from the board situation or the true withdrawal situation that Frederick thought that he was going to have. And that's why it's kind of weird that the victory conditions for this are based upon how many commands the Austrians commit to the battle. If they stick with what they have on the field, this is the withdrawal situation, and commit at most one more command, all they have to do is defend Lobositz. If they lose Lobositz, they lose the game. If they hold it, they win. And there's a lot of turns, 39 I think. If they commit only 2 or 3 of their commands, say about half the force here, then they have to hold Lobositz and Sulowitz. Same situation. Finally, if they commit up to, what, all of them? Yeah, they can commit all their commands. They also have to hold Velhorta. Or Melhorta? I can't tell. Velhorta. And the way things start, the only thing defending Velhorta is these Grenziers. Now, my thought with the Austrians is, look, if I don't commit an army the size of Prussia's army, I'm not going to be able to hold anything. I'm going to be just so overwhelmed. So my intention is to commit everything, which means my intention is to hold everything. And that's historically what was attempted, and the Austrians were indeed driven from the field. I may be mistaken about that, but the concept of overwhelming force against a small defensive position, I just do not see how a smaller force is more likely to hold Lobositz alone than a larger force is able to hold the entire field. It's just a matter of, I'll have forces anchoring, and I have this wonderful terrain up here which is strongly advantageous to the Grenziers. Yes, this could be painful. Now, because I have to branch some forces off to help defend that. But it looks like I have a lot more forces. So, to some extent, maybe the big choice is, do I want to just defend the Sulowitz? And if so, I'll probably leave myself with some flexibility of deciding, do I need to commit more troops and therefore hold this. From the Prussian side, my thinking is, historically this was horrible fighting going through there against very weak troops, against the very light Grenziers. I would rather not face that. I've set up some infantry that I'm planning on swinging around and protecting my advance forward, and I'm going to concentrate on Lobositz. If I get that, I win. If the line extends due to additional forces, well, then perhaps I'll move my own battle over here. But right now, this is my goal. That's the only thing I care about. And I'm not going to worry about trying to fight through these vineyards at this point. Now, when we hit up here, and those are, I don't know what that terrain is. Is that steep? I don't know what this is. Some crap. I know there's steep slopes going up here, but I don't know. I mean, some of it could just be unimportant. You know, like I don't think this is, because it passes through the middle of the hex. I think it's trying to show some kind of like, I don't know, wall or something. God knows. But yeah, I have no idea there. The villages provide a little bit of weak defensive terrain. Higher fire. I don't know if they give higher fire defenses, but they definitely give a close combat defense. So they seem like good locations. And I think that's what we're going to see develop, is the Prussians trying to avoid the Grenzers. To me, they're just too much of an irritation to actually try to track down and fight. And trying to push into a position where I can swing up and hit Lobos itself. For the Austrians, I'm going to try to move in and take as much. I'm definitely going to be bringing at least 3 more units in, and once I do that, probably the whole boat, given the way things are developed, that I plan on them developing, the Prussians are probably going to not be in a position to take Valhorta easily. Okay, because I didn't explain things in detail during during the rules and introduction or whatever, I do want to cover sort of what's happened here. My first roll was a tied roll with modifiers. So I rolled again. This is for initiative. Prussians got a total, both rolled an 8. That's a 16 together, which is higher than the end turn number. So this marked down. Now, that would happen even on tied rolls, so it's conceivable that a turn could end, sort of. I feel like I made a mistake by not having these guys in road column, because if the turn does end early, they're not going to get forward as far as I like. Anyway, Frederick has a +5 modifier for his command. Brown has a +4, so Frederick got the option to move first. Well, to force whoever he wants to move. There's an advantage to forcing your opponent to commit first, but I want to make sure I get as many of my units moving as I can. So I moved, who is this, KL, I don't know, Kleist, I should have been able to guess that, forward to screen the Grenzers. You'll notice one of these units is occupying 2 hexes now. It's converted into an extended line. One way of regular infantry lines can be extended in this way by just occupying 2 hexes in that way, rather than what I've got over here. In fact, this conserves counters, and it's harder to see, and that's one of the problems I have with this game, is it looks like very little has been done to provide it with the kind of visual that I'd normally have. Yeah, I see they're spaced out more, but it just doesn't feel like I've got a continuous line there anymore. Anyway, there was a facing change here. I should have done this at the moment, but I forgot to. There's opportunity fire that's going to happen, and I've got 4 strength points firing out of at range 2 with those skirmishers. Let's see how this works. Okay, so I'm allowed, you see how many units I'm allowed to fire out of there? Well, I think it's 4. 4 is the default. Yeah, it's... Oh! I'm not allowed to have that many skirmishers stacked. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I'll fix my skirmishers in a moment. I didn't notice that I had the stacking limits over. So I'm only going to have 2 strength points firing. That's going to be Austrian skirmishers, Grenzers. The fog's in place. It's at 2 hexes. Yeah. So they're going to have a total strength of 4 to fire. I find the fire combat table. And okay, we start looking stuff up. Clear terrain, the fire defensive value is 10. What do we got here? The target is size 7, which is no modifier. There's not going to be this. None of these are in play, I believe. I don't believe this is an Enflot. I'm not positive. Let me look at my... probably is, because he's in line, not attack column. Yeah. So I've got a +1 to the multiplier. That brings it up to ×3. No special terrain, I think, from the vineyards. I'm not sure. Vineyards, anything special here? Can't even find them. There they are. I don't see anything. There's an asterisk. Yeah, moving from is difficult for non-skirmishers. Okay. So, let's see. 6 to 10 is 1 to 2. I'm going to need a 90 or higher to hit. And on an 80 or higher, it could be it's a disorder check. I get a 62, that's not going to be a hit. Kleist has acted, so he gets flipped over. If individual units get attached or whatever, we've got these little finished markers. We also have these Fs, and I can't figure out what they're for. But they may be finished markers as well. Alright. Well, that's the first activation. And now we'd be rolling for another one. And you can see every single activation is expensive. I mean, I find that very, very painful. Although Great Battles of History has the same factor in play. I'm going to try to finish this turn up. I'll probably do it in less detail, and I've got to fix those Grenzers. Okay, so far Frederick's been getting all the initiatives, and you can see my Grenzers real quick. Like, we had the Kleist infantry up here. We got Cats, Cav moving into place, and hopefully that's all of them. Hey, that's the big, it's a big Dragoon regiment. I can't remember the name of it. We saw another move here. Now, with the average at 4.5, I would say a good number of rolls are going to push you over that 9 rating. But here we see Frederick got a 14 to a 5. That's more than double. This allows him to jump ahead because he's going to activate the entirety of his cav wing and just sweep forward with that. That's a big advantage. I have to say I'm considering moving into March column. And I look at this chart, and you change facing to face a hex side. The costs are listed here. Now I understand why a line turning into a column makes more sense in one direction than perhaps the other. But these costs are depending on what facing you want to have. Now, it seems almost random to me. Why is the right side cheaper and the left side more expensive? Why that in particular? I'm not sure. Why is the head of the column automatically going to be the right? Well, I'm going to assume that that's some standard, but it's very disturbing to me. Anyway, onward we go. Frederick got another good die roll. He decided to move Keith's infantry. Now everything on the Prussian side has moved. That means all the remaining movements are going to be Austrian, but I still have to roll the dice to see if we hit an end turn condition. Okay, well, this is pretty much the end of the turn. We've gotten down to only here, but all the units have moved as much as they wanted. I already cleared up the counters that don't belong. This goes back up to the top of the hour box. This clips down to 20 minutes. Now you'll notice the amount of actions goes down as the game continues, which, you know, makes it maybe more precious to try to get your activities in places. Main thing we see, the Austrians maneuvered some of their off-map pieces. Now, Prussia can't see these because of the fog. Most of these are at level 0, so the light's going to clear. He's going to be able to see most of that before too long. I didn't want to keep too hidden. I feel it's more important to get positioned on the battlefield. Austrian forces stayed here in Lobositz, but I'm moving the Grenadiers and the Grenzers, which are all in skirmish formation, towards the sunken road. They'll take a position up there. I may have too many to fit, and I'll figure out what to do. Cavs moving forward. This cav moved forward a little bit to make room for them. And that's about it. I'll sum this up. Got to check to see how the fog lifts, etc. at the beginning of next turn.